Welcome to another episode of The More You Know. Today I'm joined with a certified hypnotherapist, Wendy. Wendy, can you give us a brief introduction?
Hey, Brian. Yes, I sure can. I accidentally became a hypnotherapist 25 years ago when people didn't really understand what hypnotherapy was, but it has been the best thing that has happened in my entire life.
Can you give us a brief overview of what hypnotherapy is?
Yeah, well, a lot of people think it's just, when you see a hypnotist at the fair and they're doing a show that they instantly go sleep and you fall apart and you're a puddle on the floor. But what has happened with hypnotherapy is it went from being what hypnosis was, which was a lot of funny old men, seriously, that were kind of the watch swinging little, pudgy men. Well, that was over 25 years ago. And since I've been in this profession, there are so many brilliant young people that are innovating and creating new strategies for hypnotherapy. So you get relaxed with your hypnotherapist, or you can listen to recorded therapy sessions, and you get all the tension out of your body. And you're basically opening up what we do call a subconscious mind. It's that inner mind where you can solve problems or heal certain health issues or overcome bad habits and so much more. Many hypnotherapists see miracles with their clients.
You said that you accidentally became one. What do you mean by accidentally?
Yeah, it's really weird. I had two tanning salons in California, and one of them had closed down because the shopping center was failing, and then the other one, the lease was up, and I didn't have anybody taking it over. So it was the last day that I was there, and it was very sad. But I was just reading the Sacramento Bee newspaper on that day, and in the classified sections, which we don't do that at all anymore, but there was one little tiny ad that said there was a hypnotherapy school. And I thought, that's interesting. I wonder what that is. And I called them, and the woman running it said it starts tonight and it's 6 months long. And it was like a pretty big commitment because it's like 4 days a week, full days. And she said, just come tonight for free. So I did. And I loved it. I loved what she was teaching. And I was fascinated just by that one evening. And that's how I accidentally became a hypnotherapist. Had I not seen that little classified ad, I don't know where my life would be.
That's very interesting. That's so that's so old school. I feel like when back in the
Yeah.
day, you would just find like jobs in the Sunday newspaper.
Yeah.
That's awesome though. Can you kind of walk through like what did she show you in that first session that got you immediately hooked?
Part of it was because she took the whole class and she did some hypnosis on us. And I think most of us had never experienced anything like that. But like that, your whole body is so relaxed and you feel like waves of bliss are going through your body. And if she says, I mean, this is pretty basic, but your arms are really heavy, loose and limp, so heavy, loose and limp. You can feel them getting completely heavy. And now, even if you try to lift them, you'll know that your arm just doesn't move. It's just right there. These kind of effects are something that amazed me because I had never had that done. And now, like if I work with clients, if I were to say, when your eyelids close, they just melt into your cheeks. And you'll notice that your eyelids are so just relaxed and loose and limp that even if you tried to open them, they wouldn't open. They would just get heavier and heavier. So, so these are weird little effects that you get that were fascinating.
When you do this, is it sort of like a meditation style where like people are laying down and then they have their eyes closed and then you're speaking to them, or what's kind of like the technique that you use?
Yeah, it is similar to meditation because you're trying to achieve a real still and peaceful mind so that you don't have any chatter and anything else going on. But you're doing that on your own with meditation. So with hypnotherapy, because you have a person who's there and is getting you to relax, first of all, it's also guided so that you're told what to imagine or what to feel. For an example is like I work a lot with addictions, and so there was a man who was quitting drinking, and he had no faith that he could quit drinking because he'd tried and failed many, many times. And he just said, "I'm a fat slob drunk. That's it. Nothing's going to work." So I took him in hypnosis into a year in his future. And when he was there imagining a year in his future, I didn't tell him what to imagine. I just said, "Notice what makes you feel so proud and why you feel like a really strong, healthy man. And notice how easy it was to let go of alcohol, and it just hasn't been a part of your life for a whole year. And and so he describes what he's doing, which is being an athlete, which he thought after the session, he says, that's just ridiculous. I'm not an athlete. I will never be an athlete. Why would I think that? So he had this experience and then he became an Ironman after
Oh
that.
wow.
Yeah, he took the highest, most extreme sport you could possibly do, and he's been an Ironman for over 15 years, all over the world.
And that's from just one session or
He had
like
many
different
sessions.
sessions?
Right, he did have many sessions for alcohol and drug addiction. I do about 10 or 15 different sessions that are all about different aspects of your identity and what you really want to be and who you really are without it. But that one session was the only one where he went into the future and experienced himself as an athlete, and something in his mind said, yes, I want this more than anything. Because if you know how grueling Ironman competitions are, oh my gosh.
Oh
Ooh,
yeah.
yeah.
That's very interesting. When you do get clients like this, do you have your own office or do you go to their place? Do they come to your place or
Yeah, well, I had an office for like probably about 15 years or so, and I haven't had an office for a while. Clients now fly in to come and see me, and they then get a hotel room, and I come to them, and we do really intensive therapy for 3 or 4 days in a row. So they're getting what might take a month or 2 months if they were seeing me once a week. And it's a really nice way to just get in there and get rid of whatever problems or issues or the thing that they need. And then I see some clients online on Zoom and sometimes on the phone a little bit.
interesting? How long are these sessions?
Usually they're about an hour. So the first half hour is um, kind of talking about what's been happening since our last session and what they've felt and what's different, or do they feel something they're stuck at. And we talk about emotions and what emotions are coming up. And then the second half of it is doing the actual hypnotherapy session. So I might do, like, if they're just having problems saying, I just don't know why I keep going back to smoking cigarettes. I've quit so many times and I just feel like I'm sabotaging myself every time. And there's just a part of me that has to smoke. So then we would work on finding the part of them that is causing the self sabotage, and usually there's a positive intention behind self sabotage. Does that make any sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we are asking the inner mind to show us what the positive reason is for smoking. For instance, this one woman, her when we talked to the part of her that wanted her to smoke cigarettes, I said, well, notice what created it and when you first felt this feeling. She says, I'm about 7 years old and I love my grandpa and I'm playing a game with my grandpa and he's so nice. And I said, what else do you notice? He said, he's smoking cigarettes and that smell is always the smell of grandpa. And she had such a connection with loving her grandpa who had died and the smell of cigarettes. And that's what kept making her come back to smoking because it was a positive feeling for her. So we released that and then she didn't smoke again. And that one was about a 15-minute session and that was it. She never smoked again.
Oh my god.
I know. That was crazy. I was like, and it was actually during a radio show. I had a call in radio show for a while and she was a caller. So right there on the show, I said, go back to the time when you realized that, you should smoke cigarettes.
That is crazy. So, when you say that she talked to the part of her mind that was causing her to smoke cigarettes, how did you really get that side to come out?
Yeah, that is a great question. I usually do it with a physical sensation. So, what I'm asking them is there's a part of you that wants you to do this, and it's there knowing that it wants to do it for a positive reason. But notice where you feel it in your body. Do you feel it in your shoulders or in your head or in your belly? Just notice where the heaviness or the tightness is. And so we're getting to know that part. We're trying to find the emotional place where some of that energy is stored. And this isn't really woo woo. It's actually more the stuff that's stored in our cells, the emotions, the anger, the difficulties. So she says, it's in my belly. I feel that part in my belly. It feels really tight and it feels like it's a dark red color. And so then I'm just asking that part and saying, what do you really want? And then the part will tell me something. Um, Oh, for instance, when I was first becoming a hypnotherapist, I was a flat broke single mom, and I had no way to get out of the horrible debt that I was in. But I did my parts therapy because it seemed like I was sabotaging myself, like with every opportunity that I tried. And I was very new at hypnotherapy, but I asked the part of me what it really wants, and it says, I need you to be pitiful. And this was weird because it's supposed to be a positive reason, right? And I said, thank you. And I said, even deeper, what do you want? And it said, I need you to be more pitiful. And at that point, I just felt myself tear up. And the third thing you ask the part is, why do you want that? So I said, why do you need me to be more pitiful? And the part said, because then you'll be rescued. That was a
Oh
ton
wow.
of bricks. And I had no conscious thought of needing to be rescued. I'm not that kind of person. But there was a part of me that was thinking if I get worse, someone would rescue me.
That's very interesting to think about right there.
It is. It was huge. And when I was going through that, I was so depressed and oh God, and they were always shutting off, utilities and things. And I would
Ugh.
tell people, I can't put one foot in front of the other anymore. I just can't take another step. And that was like my mantra, which was very negative, and I didn't realize that until I was walking to the parking lot to my car somewhere, and all of a sudden I just stopped walking. And I literally felt I couldn't take another step because I had recorded that in my brain so often and told everybody. And then obviously I at some point did take another step, but I was physically stuck for a while.
Oh my god.
Yeah, our brains are
When
weird things.
yeah, the I mean like from what I've heard about like different ways of like helping or like getting a mind that's peaceful, your body can do so many wonderful things just by either breathing, listening to different tunes. It's just all astonishing to me. And when you say that you talk to the specific body part that will tell you kind of like the problem, I feel like in this to get into this type of state, you have to get the person really relaxed where they can really get in touch with their body parts. Is there like specific music that you play in the background? Because I know that I've been a uh, big advocate of binaural beats lately, and
Right, right, yeah.
for me, I feel like like binaural beats gets my body relaxed, where I can feel every single muscle in my body moving, or
Yeah.
just any feeling. So, do you use that in your
I
process of?
do. Absolutely. Yeah, binaural beats are really helpful, and I make a lot of recordings for different problems that people have, and I most of them have binaural beats in them because they do create such a profound effect, and they get you to get out of that like critical aspect or the analytical mind. Yeah.
Hmm.
So yeah, I like doing that. When I'm with a client in person, I like to also be able to touch them, either they're on their shoulder. Sometimes, if they're having an emotional thing, I'll put my hand on their heart or on their belly, and I like to share that energy that connects us all and help them to feel that there's someone here who cares deeply about you, and then they get to really relax as well.
Yeah, yeah. It's I feel like that's a very comforting moment. Gets them relaxed more.
Yeah. So I had a client that she was a woman about 60 years old, and she had been unresponsive for 3 years. She was just laying in a bed in her house, and her two adult daughters took care of her there. And they asked me to come over and see if I could help her. But there had been no response in her body or face. She couldn't communicate, and they just took care of her. So the first day, I sat down next to Martha and I started describing a story that I thought would enlighten or enliven her senses. Like, was walking along a little creek and putting her toes in the creek and feeling the very cold water, and then sitting on this blanket and feeling the sensation of the blanket. And I was just wanting to kind of re-energize some parts of her body. So then I left and I came back the next week. And when I came in the room, her eyebrows went up. And this, for 3 years, nothing had moved. Her eyebrows went up. And we did another session. Um, her hands were very tight and clenched, and you couldn't open her fingers at all. They had just like solidified into, just claws. So I talked to her about what it was like when she played with Play Doh with her daughters. And I would touch her fingers and say, "This is the red Play Doh, and it's all soft, and this one's blue." And I worked with her for probably 45 minutes on her hands being soft. And, just the Play Doh thing made sense to me at the time. So I come in there next week, and her hands can move, they can open and close. It was
Wow.
like amazing. And so then I just would touch like her forefinger on one hand and say, "Lift this one now." And she did. And I say, "That means yes. Now lift the one on your left hand." And that means no. Now she can communicate with her daughters and they can ask her questions.
Oh my god.
I know. It was 3 years. No doctor had been able to find anything wrong with her or understand how to help her, and nothing worked. And we got to the point where I got her body to be able to like bend and move because it had been all stiff. So they could sit her up and put her in a wheelchair and take her for walks outside and have a little bit of quality of life. It was just amazing. But that's where hypnosis, when you're a hypnotherapist, you see these miraculous things happen, and it's like, wow, huh, I did that.
Yeah, like oh my god, that's life changing. Besides from like the Play-Doh aspect of it, what other therapy did you go and practice with her?
With her, oh, I've got one really cool story for you. Um, well, I did a lot of stuff with getting her brain to connect with the signals, that are sent to her body so she could have sensations. And that's how I got her legs to get unfolded from the tightness they were in. But um, her daughters called me and they said, "Martha's in the hospital because she has an infection and it's in her whole body." And they had to put a breathing tube in. And they said, because of her condition, when they take the breathing tube out, she's going to die. She won't remember how to breathe. That's just what happens. So I went to the emergency room where they were getting ready to take her breathing tube out that afternoon. And I sat beside Martha and I said, "Martha, you know that we know what's up and you know how to breathe. You've always known how to breathe. Even when you were first born, the first thing you did was take that big, awesome breath." And you know how to breathe. It's the most natural thing. And when that tube comes out, you're going to take a breath. So anyway, we're doing this. And some guy walks in that was either a nurse or an intern or something. He's in scrubs. He walks in there and he looks at me and Martha and he says, pretty loudly, he says, "She's not going to breathe. She's going to die when we take it out."
Oh god, so
So,
blunt with it too.
oh my gosh. And I said, "Martha, we know you're going to breathe, right?" And so then I left, and a couple hours later, they took the tube out, and the daughters called me and said, "Martha breathed. She's breathing. She's fine." They took the tube out, and she took a great big breath, and she's been doing fine.
Oh my god. For these type of things, my friend when he first told me about binaural beats, I thought he was crazy. But it takes a very open mind to acknowledge these and try them out for yourself because like you can't really judge something and say that it doesn't work unless you try it. And
Yeah. Yeah. Well, even people who feel like, "Oh, I could never be hypnotized," because they think they're giving up control or something, they can. And it's not about giving up control, it's about letting go to let someone help you. And once people experience it, especially even if they just listen to my recorded programs, people have really phenomenal breakthroughs and they're like, "Wow, how did I do that? How did I make that happen?" Like, a lot of the men, sometimes they feel like they couldn't be hypnotized because they feel resistant maybe. And then we do a few little things that help them be convinced that they are hypnotizable, and they're like really happy about it usually because they want to overcome some problem in their life.
what is the craziest or like most wild story of a hypnotherapy session that you've ever had?
Wow, there are a lot of them. One of them, oh, one of them was just, it was a man who was about 50 years old and he came in, he wanted me to help him stop smoking. And so we're getting into the session. It's just it's just a good relaxation so far. And we're about 15 minutes in and I'm giving some suggestions that there are some changes that your brain is making and things are going to be so much easier or whatever. Very nice, gentle stuff. All of a sudden, he opens his eyes, he bolts out of the room and goes home. He he just left and ran off.
What?
And it was not a good thing because he called me about 15 minutes later. He says, I'm at home and I'm lying in my bed. I don't know what's wrong with me. My body is shaking because he just interrupted this trance state and his subconscious mind wasn't ready. His conscious mind wasn't ready. So I said, well, just relax and just, hold the phone up. And I took him through a process of getting him back to just a good balanced state. But wow, there was a really weird thing with a woman. This one was pretty shocking. She had migraines every Thursday, and she had had them for several years. And her doctor had tried everything to get rid of her migraines. So she came in, and I was asking her to go back to the very first time when her body learned to have a migraine. And I asked her to go back and find that feeling the very, very first time. And so then I all of a sudden saw her mouth open and her head was shaking and she wasn't breathing. And it was like she was like trying to gasp for breath and she couldn't breathe and her eyes were still closed.
Oh my
And I didn't,
god.
I know, I had never seen anything like that.
That's like some
Um,
exorcist stuff.
yeah. So real quickly said, on the count of three, I am going to touch your shoulder, and when I do, your body's going to relax. You stay right where you are, but you'll be able to breathe easily. One, two, three. And I put my hand on her shoulder. And then she took a big breath. And because whatever was going on in her throat, she really couldn't breathe. So, so then she's breathing, and I said, tell me where you are and what you're experiencing. And she said, I'm in my house and my husband is strangling me. He's trying to kill me. And this did really happen to her. And she said, I can't breathe because he's strangling me and I'm going to die and all the fear and everything. So we worked on releasing the emotion from that and the fear and all that. And when I did say that these migraines were only on Thursdays, then I asked her, what day is it when this is happening? And she thought for a while and says, oh, it's Thursday. So for years, her body was having migraines every Thursday because this memory was so locked in to the trauma she experienced of almost being killed.
Oh my god.
Yeah, yeah, that one was an eye opener, boy.
And then what did you kind of go like? What did you do with her to like get through that process to like prevent the migraines?
Yeah, well, this is good for all your listeners to hear and to understand because there's so much trauma that people go through and they don't ever really resolve it. You kind of get over it a little bit, but the trauma is still there in your cells. And we know that the cellular memory passes on those traumatic emotions to the next cells that are being renewed. So you keep having that trauma in your physical body, but also in your mind and in your emotional life. Now, what we want to do is first bring that memory up to the surface so we can understand it and know it. Now it's no longer a trapped memory because most trauma gets somehow, just put way down deep and it's kind of trapped and they don't have access to understand it. So if it's a childhood memory, I will have them see their younger self and notice what's happening in that moment. So one of my clients, his this is all bad stuff, but his dad shot everyone in his family and killed them all, except this boy. The dad thought he was dead and he was lying there bleeding, but he lived. So, what I had him do is now look at that young boy, and I think he was 10 when this happened, but look at that young boy and notice that he is going to live and he is going to be okay, and that this is a real tragedy, but he's going to be okay. And I need you to help make sure that boy knows that. So now your adult self is connecting with that memory of that inner child and bringing all the emotions and feelings of the trauma to the surface where we can resolve them. Now, in a case like that, it's not like you can forget that your dad killed everybody in your family, but at least the emotional reaction of that trauma that made him scared of everything and made him have massive anxiety, that can go away. And it does. That the really difficult emotional states, they resolve themselves because they're no longer locked in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I feel like if this was like if you brought these to surface, I feel like like how many sessions would this take to help that? I feel like if you brought something very traumatic up to the surface, like it would kind of be dwelling on the surface for a little bit.
Kind of. We do work to check to see if we've resolved the problem. So that's really important to do. And not all hypnotherapists are that well trained. Some of them are. They actually take a course that's online that costs $29 and call themselves a hypnotherapist. But a good hypnotherapist will make sure that doing several sessions to make sure all the aspects of the trauma or the fear or whatever it is that happened are resolved. And the way that we test it is after I'm almost done with the session, then because I'm having him or her looking at their adult life and bringing the child with them into their adult life, just, in their imagination, of course. But then I say, I want you to go back to, let's say, where that little girl is in the backyard and tell me what she's doing now. And so if the person says she's she's afraid. She's just sitting there by the tree and she's really sad and she's crying. That means we didn't get at the actual core um, event. We got some other stuff, but not all of it. So if I have her go back and say, "What's that little girl doing?" and she says, "Oh, she's playing and she's picking flowers and she's really happy and she's just enjoying the sunshine." Now we know that we got the initial event because there's an initial traumatic event and then there's subsequent ones that helped reinforce it. So you have something bad that happened in your early in your life, and then as an adult, any similar emotion, like you get fired from your job or you get rejected or there's something that scares you, it usually connects with that old memory where you first learned to feel that way.
Interesting. And have you ever had to deal with like a language barrier when
A
you were
little
doing
bit.
these?
Yeah, yeah, and it can be a little difficult because the person is processing it by listening to English and then having to somehow kind of translate it into what their uh, ability is to understand it. So generally, it's good to have a hypnotherapist who totally understands your language. But people who are really bilingual and that they think in English, they do fine.
Gotcha, gotcha. I know that there are people with different cultures and different beliefs. Do you have to sometimes change up your practices for those people?
Yeah, what a great question. Yeah, for sure. Because there's some people who don't believe there's any higher power or that there's, that they don't believe there's past lives, let's say. And what happens if they just all of a sudden bounce into a past life without even expecting it? Because that does happen. And they're like, I don't believe in this, but yet I'm now experiencing myself, in a Wild West town or getting a sword shoved through my heart or something like that. So if someone is like an atheist and they just don't have any connection with God, I'm not going to be asking them to bring God's love into their heart to help them heal or something. But if they're spiritual, then we do a lot of spiritual work. And if they're into, angels and things, it doesn't matter what my belief is about it. I can say, and now if there's some angels around that are going to guide you and keep you safe and watch over you, you can bring them in now. But we have these spiritual experiences as hypnotherapists that blow our minds. It's amazing how oh these things happen that you got to question reality.
Gotcha, gotcha. And as a closing topic right now times are rough for a lot of people. Pandemic happening on
Hmm.
election that's been
Oh,
happening for about 3 days now, going on four.
God.
Lots of people are
Yeah.
scared at home. What are some techniques that you could suggest to them to help them remain calm, let them know that things are going to pass and that things are going to get better?
Yeah, and that is such a good question because we are so stuck in this reality. And even if you start telling yourself things are going to get better, I am going to feel happier and I'm going to feel, back to myself again. But then the reality is they turn on the news or they go outside and they have to put on their masks everywhere. And it's like, no, that's not the reality. This is a really difficult time. I, I'm not sure exactly how to answer it, except that paying attention to your self talk, your inner self talk, and what are you saying to yourself? If you notice that you're saying things like, oh God, this is never going to be over. I can't take it anymore. And you say something like, I can't wear this mask for another minute. This is just a bunch of bull. This is ridiculous. And you agonize over the election. But notice what you're saying to yourself. And every time you do that, you're getting your brain to search for memories that have those same emotions and bring those up. Like, if I tell you to remember when you fell off a bike, and think about when you fell off the bike and what it felt like and how embarrassed you were, your brain is going to go connect with all the other emotional memories that are about being embarrassed or having an accident or having people see you or make fun of you, whatever it is. So we do this to ourselves all day long. And if you catch yourself with negative self talk, you get to change it very gently. Don't beat yourself up and don't say, oh my God, why do I keep saying that to myself? Instead, you want to say, it's a mixed up world out there, but I still can feel good and I can still make every day special in some way. Now, what you've done is you're getting your brain to connect with memories that are like, yeah, I can still feel good. Maybe it'll be a little difficult at times, but I can still have some really beautiful moments in my life. And we've got us like someone who wants to lose weight. Their self talk will be, "I'm so hungry all the time. I just can't quit eating sugar. I'm totally addicted to sugar. I have to have my fast food or whatever it is." Each time you say that, it's like I'm hypnotizing you to do that. I wouldn't say those things to you in a hypnosis session. I wouldn't say, "Oh my God, you're so addicted to sugar," but change it. So you would say, it's easy for me to let go of sugar. I didn't realize that I don't even like the taste of it anymore. And I know that it's really good for me to drink really cool, clear water and feel that feeling of being good to my body. So that would be a change in how you wouldn't say, I'm not going to eat sugar anymore. That doesn't work. And then before you go to sleep at night, the last things that you're thinking about and envisioning should be positive and should be a little healing instead of watching the news from bed at night. First thing when you wake up in the morning, you're still in a state of hypnosis. You're in that place where you're in between consciousness. And if you close your eyes in the morning and then just let yourself envision what kind of day you're going to have, and let this wave of bliss go through your body all the way down to the bottoms of your feet, and just decide that today is a day of abundance. I'm going to have really good opportunities that come to me, and I'm going to see some things in a different way and be very creative, something like that. You start your day like that, and your life will change in every aspect.
I love it. I love it.
In fact, it
I can
was
def
in 2008 when we were having that economy crisis back then, when everybody was losing their shirts. I made a program called Wake Up Happy, and it has 8 different sessions that you can listen to in the morning because I wanted people to wake up and have positive thoughts. And it's pretty cool. You just start your day with 10 minutes of me telling you to, do something different.
I like that. I like that. I can totally attest to going to bed happy with happy thoughts. And for me, I tried meditation every day before bed. I can tell you now that I've experienced a big difference because I did fall off the train of meditating before bed.
Oh, uh huh.
And for me, I can totally tell the difference. Like, after I'm done meditating, my body is loose, my mind is clear, and I go to bed and I fall asleep so much faster.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
the
Especially for people sleeping. And, sleep is the most important thing we have for our health because we get rid of the stress when we sleep and the chemicals of stress. And our body is renewing and healing itself. But if you don't sleep well, you're starving your brain and your body for the thing it's supposed to have during sleep. And for working with insomnia, hypnotherapists are extremely successful in getting rid of insomnia. And even if you just listen to a recording that's to end your insomnia at night, you'll all of a sudden you'll sleep all night and you go, "Wow, how did that happen?" It's so good. It is just so amazing.
yeah, yeah, I definitely understand that. I think I'm going to start implementing what you said earlier of in the morning kind of just telling myself like, all right, today's gonna be a good day, full of opportunities. Cause every morning lately, I kind of just been waking up and like, oh man, it's just another day. Let's go to work now.
Yeah, and it does feel like every day is just the same old thing right now. And I was just writing a blog post today, and it was about how we feel like there's nothing to look forward to, and there's nothing on our radar of what kind of cool things are next. Every day is just the same, and it's really hard for us. We need things to look forward to plan, and yeah, and it's so weird. It's like Groundhog Day every day. But I would like to. I'm sending you a link to the Wake Up Happy series, so you can have
Oh,
those just as a
please.
gift. Yeah, and then you can use them in the morning.
Oh, please, please do. But yeah, that's all that I have for you. Anything else that you would want to mention?
Yeah, I think most people who are probably listening to this just have no experience with hypnosis or hypnotherapy. And what I would say is there's a lot of good hypnotherapy sessions out there. There's some, like if you go on YouTube and you're looking for hypnosis sessions, because some put them on a YouTube video thing, there's some bad ones as well. And to watch out for bad hypnosis. One of them I listened to was to stop smoking. And this hypnotherapist was saying things like you're imagining that you're eating a bowl full of cigarette butts and how bad they taste and they make you want to throw up. And then she had them go to lying on their deathbed and saying you have lung cancer and you know your lungs are just going to fail and here's your family and they're so ashamed that you did this to yourself and stuff. That's terrible. Nobody should listen to stuff like that. And so there is some bad hypnosis out there. Just don't go blindly listening to a hypnosis session if you don't trust the person and know them. And that's one of the biggest deals is there's there's some professionals in this business who are brilliant and awesome all over the world. And I get to go speak at conferences all over the world and I meet them and I meet the brilliant people. There's also some people who are like, oh, I can do this. I'll make some recordings. I'll sell them.
Oh
So,
God,
yeah, so be careful.
gotcha, gotcha. Where can our listeners find you?
My website is wendy.com and it's Wendy with an I, so wendi.com. And there's a whole bunch of free stuff there. I've several of the programs I put out for free. And some people have some cool life changing experiences with the free stuff, even. There's a session that's for if you have mask anxiety, so that you'll feel more comfortable wearing a mask, which strangely enough, it works really well. So go grab some free stuff there and experience it for yourself for sure.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, everything that Wendy just mentioned will be linked in the description. I can't wait to try your morning
Yeah,
uh
wake up happy.
recordings. Yeah, I
Yeah,
can't wait to try that.
yeah,
I will definitely give you a testimony when I'm
cool.
done with that. I'm sure that it's gonna do wonders for my days now because I'm just a big believer of like the positive energy that you do give out and that it does dictate how you are going to perform during the day.
Yeah, yeah. And if there's any other problems that you're struggling with, just send me an email and I'll hook you up with whatever program will help you out with that too.
I definitely do appreciate that. Thank you so much, Wendy, for coming on today and informing me more about hypnotherapy.
Thank you, Brian. It was great talking to you and getting to know you.
Likewise.